Right, fantastic. Good morning, Hayley. How are you?
Good morning, Elaine. Good, thank you. So great to be here on this chilly morning.
Fantastic. And good morning to our audience and welcome to our webinar where we're going to unpack how you can boost your employees' financial well-being with the intention of obviously unlocking peak performance. Just to give you a little bit of an introduction, my name is Elaine Kruger. I'm the General Manager at iLearn Corporate Services. iLearn started its relationship and journey with Worth in 2021 when we decided to gift our employees with one of Worth's financial education programs. The impact was truly profound, to the extent that we built the foundation finance program into our learnerships, specifically aimed at the unemployed delegates who were participating. And this was done to obviously educate them sufficiently to use their stipends in an effective and efficient way. The feedback that we got from our learners was also really, really incredible. The impact was definitely positive. Just to give you an indication of what some of the feedback was that we received, one of the learners said, I shared my knowledge with my family and this has helped them manage their finances too. Another learner said, now that I understand how interest works, I'm equipped to identify when I'm being taken advantage of. A third learner said, this program has taught me how to create a budget and stick to it by being aware of my spending habits. I participated in the program too, and even though I thought myself to be quite financially wise, there was a lot that I learned that actually helped me too. With a rising cost of living under the current economic conditions, debt is undoubtedly going to be on the increase. And having practical knowledge of how to avoid financial pitfalls is critical to the financial well-being of all South Africans. I do want to be clear that Worth does not offer any financial products like policies and RAs, etc. Their programs offer pure financial education, and it's designed by South Africans for South Africans, which I think is absolutely critical. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Hayley Parry. She's a fintech entrepreneur, a financial educator, and a female board advocate. She's also a director of Cumulate and a co-founder of Worth and the Money School. Hayley Parry's love of education began at the age of 14 when she represented South Africa on the global stage at the G7 Junior Summit in Japan and later at MIT in Boston. Her subsequent studies both locally at the University of Johannesburg and then at, Hayley, please correct this pronunciation for me, Jönköping.
You actually say Jönköping, but yes, you have to have lived in Sweden.
At the Jönköping International Business School in Sweden, gave her the platform to launch a corporate career in financial media. After selling her first business to Media24, she returned to her passion, building a financial education business that is changing people's lives, one bank account and one family at a time. So Hayley, it is an absolute privilege for us to have you on board to share with us some of the statistics and the potential impact that organizations can enjoy by embarking on this journey with you too.
Thank you so much, Elaine. That's very kind of you. And good morning to everybody who has, or actually good afternoon, it's 12 o'clock, to everybody who's joined us in today's session. I promise to keep to our time limit. We will have, we'll be with you for just under an hour, and I'll also make sure that we have time at the end for any questions. So if you do have any questions, please keep them for the end. I'll be happy to take them. But I think just before we get into the detail of it, sorry, let me just sort out my presenting screen here. Elaine's given a fabulous introduction to Worth. Some of you may be familiar with the brand if you are a Discovery Bank client, because we are also their financial education partner. and we help them develop Vitality Money. So this is obviously a space that we are really passionate about. And I'm so glad that Elaine mentioned that we don't actually sell any products and services, because the independence of our financial education content is critical. And I think it's one of the reasons why we have garnered so much trust from our learners over the years that we've been doing this. And so I'm really excited to talk you guys through a whole lot of aspects of financial wellness this afternoon, and not only financial wellness, but the opposite of that. What does it look like when you're financially stressed? What does it look like for your employees? And what is the bottom line impact of that on your business? We need to unpack what the impact of that is from a financial perspective, and then talk you through what ROI looks like if we implement a program in partnership with you and iLearn in order to really change things. And so where I always like to begin is to take a look at the state of our nation's finances before we start looking at our personal finances and our employees' finances, because the reality is that nobody's managing their money in a vacuum, right? And I think we're currently in a situation where the state of our nation's finances is having a fairly big impact on the impact of our personal finances. The reality is that the cost of living squeeze that most people are experiencing is real. For people who are servicing bonds, for instance, that repayment figure is up 38% compared to November 2021. Now, if you think about how most people, accommodation is one of their top 3 expenses every month. You take that figure, you increase it by 38%, and you're absolutely going to see knock-on effects, not only in your employees' personal lives, but how it impacts their ability to perform their job at work too. But regarding the figures on the screens, I think the most arresting of all here is that 94% of us are going to work our whole lives and not be able to stop working, right? That's what that statistic means. And the reason for that is primarily that debt to income ratio you see at the bottom of the screen. What does that mean? Well, it means that for every 1,000 Rand in take-home pay that you or I or your employees earn, for the average South African, 760 Rand of that is spent servicing debt, leaving you with 240 Rand to live off, which is obviously not ideal, not optimal, and for most people, it's not possible to live off what remains, and so begins a debt cycle that is often very, very difficult to get out of without help. So before we get too depressed from those figures and that kind of intro,
that's scary statistics, definitely.
Yeah, it really is scary, but I don't want to get people too depressed, right? So the image I've got on our screen is it's just kind of like the opportunity to take a bird's eye view and say, okay, so what is the long-term goal here? For anyone who's working at the moment, what we need to understand is the big picture, right? Our financial big picture. And so we've got here a graph which essentially explains to us what happens when we manage our money on a monthly basis, right? We've got 12 opportunities every month to move ourselves forward financially or backwards, depending on whether we spend more than we earn or we spend less than we earn. And so that is going to bring me to my first question of today's session. And I'm not sure if I have the ability to have a look here at the chat. Let me just see if I can bring this up. Or Elaine, you might need to share it with me. But I'm interested from our panelists, from our attendees, to know what you guys think. And again, this is really, there's no exam quiz here. It's just, your gut feel. How many months out of 12 do you think your employees are spending more than they earn?
I know that before I did the Worth course, it was probably 13 out of 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah, Elaine, you've actually beaten me to my punchline there, right? Because what we know is the following. For most South Africans, most people are spending more than they earn every month, right? So that's 12 months out of the year. But if there's even the tiniest chance of any additional income, whether it's a return from the tax man or a bonus, you know, perhaps in businesses that are still paying bonuses, that money, that additional money, is spent before it even hits the bank account, right? But unfortunately, what most employees fail to understand is the consequences of that, right? And when you look at this graph and you think about it with a slightly different viewpoint or angle, what you begin to understand is that you're getting poorer the longer and harder you work. If you think about your workforce who make many sacrifices along their way to not only get the job that they now have with your business, but also to perform in that job. You know, the hours spent commuting, working overtime, making sure you're hitting targets, doing what you can, particularly in this really trying economic environment that most businesses are operating in right now as we face stage 4 and stage 6 load shedding as a given, right, throughout winter. But when you look at this graph and you understand, hang on a second, this is madness, right? How is it possible that I'm allowing myself or my employees to get poorer the longer and harder I work? It's often a light bulb moment for people. And so this is why we are really passionate about ensuring we have an aspirational pull to our content. We want everybody who's getting hold of our financial education in whatever format it might be, we want them to become wealthier. We want them to be financially healthy, financially successful, and we want them to build wealth. Right? And the first step in that journey is understanding that the goal of your personal finances is much like the one that your company is in business to make a profit, and it's something that that is managed closely in any business in South Africa where we're buying products and services. We know that that business has to make a profit, otherwise they go bankrupt, right? They go out of business. But what we fail to do as individuals is often make that link between the fact that we also need to be personally profitable. And as a result of that, it's normal from a South African context for 70% of South Africans to be spending more than they earn. Now, what I want to talk to you guys about is the impact that that's going to have on your workforce, right? How does it pull through? What does it result in? And so there's the slide that I've put together where we talk to a couple of factors here. And the first is that one that I've just said, 70% of employees are spending more than they earn. But what that results in is 63% of people are stressed and 56% are distressed. More than half have an increasing amount of debt that they're dealing with on a monthly basis. And 92% of people have absolutely no idea how to fix this situation at all. And what that results in is this last figure here, which is what I call vulnerability. But what it's essentially showing us is that only 35 out of every 100 employees has an emergency fund or access to 5,000 Rand that they could use in the instance of a financial emergency. And what that creates is a situation where employees, the moment a financial emergency arrives or comes along, it forces people to lean on debt or credit to get through the financial emergency. And the impact of that is fairly significant in your organization. I'm going to just unpack a couple of those statistics for you. So PwC publish a financial wellness survey on an annual basis, and they've been tracking some really fascinating metrics. But I think the standout one for me, and the one that we're going to talk a little bit more about now going forward, is this one that says that 55% of financially stressed employees spend 3 hours or more per week dealing with their finances at work. So what that means is that you may have a physically present employee in your workplace, but their mind and their heart are elsewhere, dealing with things like phone calls from creditors saying, you owe us, when can we expect a payment, applying for loans, trying to figure out how they're going to manage their personal financial situation until their next payday. You may also be seeing things like increasing requests for salary advances or salary increases. And you may also see an impact with employees who are really happy in their jobs and performing well, but who leave your organization to go and earn another 1 or 2 or 3,000 Rand at another company because they think that that additional income is going to solve their problem, rather than understanding that there's much more critical things that we have to fix at a fundamental financial education level before we can even think about how an increase in income can assist. And I think the other two stats that you see on the screen just point to the fact that at a personal and emotional level, people are struggling when it comes to their finances. There have been headlines coming out in the financial and general news media in the last month on an almost daily basis, explaining how our current cost of living crisis is negatively impacting people. And now I think you can understand what that link is in terms of your business around presenteeism, job hopping, absenteeism. And we've also seen a really strong link between the impact on employees' physical health and mental health. So, for example, with some of the EAPs that we work with, there's been a big increase in mental health requests and assistance. And underlying that in a large number of cases is actually financial stress, which then is manifesting in all sorts of other areas of people's personal lives. And again, that's obviously impacting their productivity at work. So one of the things that we promised in today's webinar was that we would help you figure out how to calculate at a Rand level what the impact of financial stress could be in your company. Now, we're obviously going to make a couple of assumptions here, but I'm going to just walk you through how we go about working this out, and I'm going to show you an example of what that would mean for a generic company figures that I've put together for you. So for those of you who can, please, pick up a pen or paper and your calculator and sit down and figure out what these numbers are in your business. I'm sure if you're working in HR and in wellness, this is something that you probably know at the top of your fingertips. But yeah, what we're needing to work out are the following variables. How many employees do you have in your organization? And what is the average monthly income? Once you've got those two figures, we then need to calculate your hourly rate for your average monthly income. And you do that by taking your average monthly income and dividing it by 180, and that's how you're going to get your hourly rate. So let me talk you through how you're then going to pull your figures through to work out your own personalized version of this, right? So in this example, I've assumed that we're working with a company who has an average number of 200 employees, and the average income that I have put into this calculation is just over 23,000 Rand. That figure, by the way, comes from Statistics South Africa, and it's their figure for the average monthly earnings paid to employees in the formal non-agricultural sector. Okay, now based on that calculation I showed you on the previous slide, that works out an hourly rate of 132 Rand and 37 cents. And now what we want to do is we want to take these figures, or your own figures that you put down personally, and we want to measure it against that PwC Financial Wellness Survey I told you about a few slides ago. So remember, their figure was that 55% of staff across organizations, regardless of seniority and earning levels, 55% of staff are spending 3 hours or more per week distracted at work, right? So we take our 200 employees and we times that by 55%, and then we take that and we multiply it by our hourly rate, right? And then we're multiplying it by 12 months. And so that says that we've got 110 employees at 1,588 Rand and 44 cents per month, and then that, sorry, I've got myself in a tank here. So 110 times by 1,588 gives us 174K per month, which in this example for this organization shows an impact of over 2 million Rand annually on how much financially stressed employees are costing this business from a productivity perspective. So I hope you guys have had a chance to just jot down your own numbers. I'd love to know what that looks like in your organization, but that's obviously something that I'm sure you can chat to the sales team about later. But now I think it's a matter of saying, what does it look like when we understand that that's the current situation, and if anything is probably deteriorating for most workforces at the moment. So what does it look like when we now want to go in and make an impact? It's obviously a lot of money that we're talking about there, where it's impacting organizations. And, you know, that's a direct calculation. The indirect calculation, like I said, is quite significant when you see the amount of mental health support requests that a lot of organizations are seeing as well. And we know that a lot of that is underpinned by financial stress too. So there's a number of indirect costs as well. So if we understand that the impact is massive, what does it look like when we decide, okay, how are we going to help our employees? What are the options available to us, and what is the potential ROI for implementing something like this in the workforce? Well, the first thing that I want to show you is that change can and does happen, and it can happen quite quickly too. So that picture of the normal state of personal finances for our employees, which was largely in the red, you can see how we've managed to reduce those figures. Now, these are our stats, like I said, that come from employees across all different industries, all different levels within organizations, all different earning brackets, etc. And what we see is that change happens, and it happens quickly. So these figures are showing a change within a 3-month period, so 3 paydays, and no one in any of these got an increase in this time, right? This is all about teaching employees to manage the money they do have better, right? And empowering them to start understanding what's causing the issues and how do they go about fixing it. So for example, the 70% of employees who were spending more than they earned, we reduced that all the way down to 25%. And we're still able to help that final 25%, but normally those employees are the ones that are highly over indebted, and it just takes a little bit longer to fix that cash flow situation. But we see a massive reduction in stress, distress, And, people who were not coming out on their salary month after month, who are now able to put money aside into an emergency fund, so they start building a financial buffer for themselves. So the change that happens is very encouraging, and we do it through the provision of highly scalable online and, where needed, face-to-face financial education initiatives. I think this is a slide that better describes the whole suite of offering that we offer, because it's not just about the financial education. One of the things that we discovered is critical to a successful rollout, i.e. one that's going to actually show measurable behavioral change, not simply just tick a box, is that the implementation around it and motivating and encouraging learners to not only register, but then to start and finally to complete, takes a kind of a more holistic approach. And so we support any financial education initiative in a business with things like support for the HR team in terms of how they roll it out, how they drum up support, advertising that they can put up in workplaces, as well as that can be distributed digitally. There is an entire suite of complementary products and services that we offer besides just the financial education. The other really cool bit about it is that some of the different courses that we offer are also accredited. So for businesses that are needing to spend money on training, this is a great way to not only make sure you're compliant in certain areas, but also to ensure that the training that you're doing is going to have a measurable impact in terms of increasing productivity and the financial wellness and health and happiness of your organization as well. There are also some SCORECARD benefits. Again, it depends on your particular situation, and this is something that you could chat to your sales consultant about to see whether this is applicable to you. But one of the things that I know that wellness professionals really value from us at a post-learning point in our journey is that we provide a return on investment report. That this ROI report is all about showing the impact that we've made as a result of your investment in your employees and providing them with this financial education solution. We like to assess your employees before we begin and then again at the end. And as you can see from the color-coded risk scores in front of you on the slide, we can, like I said, make a big difference and pretty quickly too. What we then see happening after this from these self-reported stats from employees talks to what Elaine started the session with. As an organization, you start seeing an impact. And for many companies, once they've kind of done one of these as like a trial or a pilot, what they like to do is actually standardize it and implement it in their organization as a standard part of induction, so that that anybody coming into the business going forward is going to be on top of their financial wellness, that you are less likely to see any of the things that you may be experiencing now, because from the get-go, your employee is inducted with this kind of benefit. And I think, for a lot of people now that we're also back in the office, having employees talk about money in a positive way around the water cooler is one of the things that, we get a lot of anecdotal feedback about, how suddenly launching something like this makes it okay to talk about, firstly, particularly when those initiatives are launched or led by senior management. We see a really, really big advantage in terms of motivation and uptake and completion from workforces when that happens. But suddenly it's okay to talk about money. we remove some of the stigma and some of the shame. And one of the ways we do that, as I said earlier, is we make sure that this content is really aspirational. So no matter where you are on your personal finance journey, we aim to meet you at a place where we can just move you forward and uplift you and move you upwards. And, you know, having that spin-off in terms of positive employee feedback is obviously really, really critical. This is my last stat in terms of how we help you measure the impact and your return on investment. And there's a couple of key things that we are looking for. So we want to make sure that your employees have some kind of emergency fund in place. This obviously also stops things like salary advance requests and employees going into further debt in the case of a financial emergency. We help them reduce the amount of debt that they have, make sure that they can come out on the salaries that they're on, and then reduce, like I said, the psychological stress around not coming out on a salary or being over indebted and that kind of thing. Right, so I've given you guys an overview of how this is rolled out and brought to you. But what I just wanted to do now is talk about the 3 different options that we typically offer to companies as a way of, there's typically some kind of personalization, right? Depending on what your exact requirements are, what your needs around your staff are, for example, whether you've got shift workers or people who are working remotely or only on site, for instance. We have 3 different ways that we can help you improve the financial wellness of your workforce. And I'm just going to talk you through those 3 options quickly. And then at that point, Elaine, perhaps you'd like to open with any questions that you might have, or perhaps from some of the attendees themselves. But let me just roll through those 3 options. So the first is that we have 2 different long form courses. One is called Wealthy Me and the other one is called Wealthy Couples. But essentially this is an all-encompassing personal finance course that employees can do online. We typically like to give them 60 days to do it in, and it would require a time investment of approximately 1 hour a week for 6 weeks. In this course, we cover everything from how to budget, how to get out of debt, how to build wealth, and even how to talk to your partner about money, because, you know, managing your money in a vacuum is not possible for many people who have partners or who have families, and it's a really critical emotional part that we need to discuss alongside the financial figures, right? What is fantastic about the way this program is set up is that we do the nudging from our side. So that slide where I showed you where you are supported in launching this at any initiative at your organization, we then have a process where we have what we call a high-tech, high-touch approach to helping as many of your employees move through the course and complete as possible. So the high-tech part of it is the fact that it's scalable, it's online, people can do it so long as they've got access to the device and the internet. And the high-touch aspect is that if we notice that your employees haven't logged on, for instance, they'll get an email saying, hi, we see you haven't logged on, remember to come on and do this because you're going to get this template when you finish this lesson, for example. We also have a help desk where we can make personal calls to your workforce saying, hi, we see you haven't logged in and we want to get you started, or we want to get you completed, you know, and just generally keep people motivated. The second option is that we have this financial foundation group of courses that Elaine was referring to earlier. This is the one that they gave to their employees who were receiving stipends, right? And these are 5 short courses that take you no more than half an hour to do per course. And it's designed to be a high impact course on a particular subject and that subject only, right? And so kind of put together a package that we find is the most useful in terms of impact and time invested. So the budgeting 101 course is obviously a given, and you'll be pleased to know that the focus of that course, of that short course, is similar to what I discussed a little bit earlier in our session today around having profit as your focus. Then we've got one that is specifically dedicated to helping employees get out of debt. This is the link to the fact that I said for every 1,000 Rand in take-home pay, most South Africans are spending 760 Rand of that servicing debt. We want to reduce that by as much as possible and as quickly as possible, because the moment we do that, we improve your employees' cash flow. When we do that, we reduce a lot of their stress. We give them back a lot of choices and options, and generally just sanity and the ability to sleep at night. Family tax is one of our most requested courses and webinars, actually, because it speaks to a very particular problem that a lot of South Africans are facing. It may be more commonly known as black tax, but we find that this is not actually a race-based financial problem. This is a financial problem that happens when you've got one or two breadwinners who are supporting multiple family members or friends and family members across different generations. And so the challenge for most of these breadwinners is how to marry what is sometimes seen as a privilege and sometimes seen as a problem with their own personal financial needs, stresses, and requirements to also further themselves financially. How do you do that in a way where you keep everyone happy, where you've got finite means and infinite demands on those means, right? So we tackle that in a really sensitive but practical way. And then the final two short courses are how to, so this is your first job to financial freedom. This is particularly helpful for any of our younger graduates entering the workforce, you know, someone who perhaps doesn't know how to read a payslip or isn't really sure what it is that they should be doing with their salary, or perhaps who's at risk of being swept up in this marketing whirlwind that tends to happen, you know, when somebody starts working and they suddenly get offered all sorts of really cool things like black or silver or gold credit cards and store cards and those kind of things, and helping them understand what's at stake when they take up those offers. Wealthy Way is our really aspirational course. This is to keep people motivated. So even if you're busy trying to work your way out of debt, doing Wealthy Way is a good way to help you understand what the game plan is here, how we want to help you use your salary to build wealth, and giving you some cool ideas about how to go about doing that. Then the final option that we have, and that is possibly our most popular at the moment, is that we do webinars or money master classes, as we like to call them, both online and in person around particular topics. Our number one booked out webinar at the moment is the one called Cash Crunch, where employers are just looking for a high impact, low investment option just to help employees immediately. And so, you know, this is a 1 hour webinar where we giving employees practical tips to navigate this cost of living squeeze that everyone's going through at the moment. And then depending on whether or not you would like to further support your employees, those talks can be standalone, or they can be used as a way to activate or encourage your employees to take up either the short or the long form financial education courses that I've just described to you on the previous two slides. So that brings my summary of the offering that we have to a close. I think in terms of next steps, Elaine, you can possibly take it from here, but I know that there are some people on the call who are already iLearn customers, and they obviously would speak to their consultants. Elaine, would you like to?
Absolutely, Shane. Thank you, Hayley. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think it's quite disheartening that this information is not taught at high school. level, because it's from high school going into further education or your first job where this information is most useful. I know that I've had clients who have done the Wealthy Me course and then have said to me, well, I need a license because I want my 1 or 2 or 3 of my children to participate too. Yeah, kids are very reluctant to listen to their parents. We're not always the greatest teachers, so letting them hear it from the actual experts in a South African context is invaluable. I think what I also enjoyed about participating in the Wealthy Me program was the resources that go with it. You know, there's assessments, etc. So it's engaging, and you have to participate. It's definitely not lecture style, and the templates that are provided for budgeting, etc. Very, very, very useful. So thank you so much. I'm going to open up now for any questions. If anybody wants to share or ask anything, please do so in the chat box.
I'm going to stop showing my screen if that's okay, so that I can also hopefully see.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Right, I'm having a look here. I haven't seen any questions coming through yet. Lisa, our background engineer, I'm not sure if I'm missing anything or if there's anything coming through on your side, perhaps.
Hi, Elaine. Nothing coming through.
Nothing just yet. Okay, right. No, that's super.
So maybe now would be a good time for you to just talk our attendees through, if they would like to know more or would like to take the next steps. What do you recommend the next steps are for them, the best way to get in touch and figure out how they could implement something like this in their organization?
Okay, fantastic, definitely. They are welcome to get in if they are in touch with somebody at the Ireland offices already. Nationally, any of our consultants, then you're welcome to reach out to your consultant. If not, and if you haven't engaged with Ireland or Worth in the past, then you are more than welcome to reach out to me directly, and then I will allocate a resource to you in your respective region. I'm going to put my email address in the chat box. And you are welcome to then email me directly. Oh gosh, okay. Let me
I can see it. It's elainek@ireland.co.za.
Yeah, no, I know.
No, but I think that's only to panelists. So perhaps Lisa can share it with the broader chat.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, but until then, it's my first name, EULAINE, and then K for Kruger. Thanks so much, Lisa, at ilearn.co.za. You know, Haley, I'm so confident in the impact that this program has made with my clients as well as with my students, that I am comfortable even giving a guarantee that it's going to make a difference to anybody who participates. And that's actually the reason why we're doing this webinar, is because we felt so compelled to share it with anybody and everybody out there, because we've definitely experienced the impact ourselves. So please do reach out, even if you just want to explore what some options are. If you want to consider the pricing, have a look at the pricing for the webinars. Like Haley said, those are the affordable, high impact programs that you can consider sharing with your employees.
Yeah, and you know, Elaine, we've seen some organizations do some really cool things with that. We have one company who introduced a thing in their business called Mula Monday. We had 2 other organizations have webinars, which they would call Wealthy Wednesday webinars. And we have them happening depending on the organization at different intervals. So sometimes we have clients who come in and just say, can you just do a once-off course because we're having an issue at the moment, a once-off money masterclass. And then we have others who actually schedule them monthly or quarterly. And they often are rotating between physical health, emotional health, and then financial health. And we find that they get incredible feedback, because financial health is often something that organizations don't understand the impact that it's having on all these other aspects. And once they start implementing and the employees start to give them feedback, they start to realize how many other areas it was impacting on their business. So there are lots of cool ways you can bring it in, lots of fun ways, like I said, with a Moolah Monday or Wealthy Wednesday. But I promise we do webinars on other days of the week too. But those are two of my favorite hashtags that I've seen when I've been invited to facilitate some of these webinars. And as I say, we also do them face-to-face. You know, often we have clients who have employees who work shifts. And so, you know, we have done these at 6 o'clock in the morning during shift changes and that kind of thing. We have a lot of experience in making it work regardless of the industry and the impact that those employers are needing. So we'd be happy to help facilitate that. Absolutely,
and I think that's what I appreciate about WIRTH, is that you appreciate the restrictions that organizations have operationally and customize it according to what they require.
Thank you.
Definitely. Okay, I think we can give everybody 10 minutes back then. Hayley, I want to thank you again. I look forward to engaging with you, every time. And thank you very much to the WIRTH team for their efficiencies and effectiveness in the background. They all seem to have this innate empathy towards employers who are experiencing, financial issues or concerns with their employees. So thank you definitely to everybody who operates in the background.
Thanks so much, Elaine. Thank you to you and your team for having us and hosting us. It's an honor as always. And yeah, we are excited to see what kind of impact we can have going forward, and looking forward to perhaps doing some more of these in the future.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much, Hayley, and thank you to the iLearn team in the background. We'll chat to you all again soon.
Thanks, everybody. Chat soon.